Going on, Justice Warriors? Good afternoon. It is just a handful of minutes right after 12. So it's that magical day, magical for many, 420, 42023. So, yep, it's Thursday. So I'm coming on today live for pretty much one specific purpose. And let me just do my little disclaimer. Oh, and I got some new lights. I had those pussy willows is what they're called, but I hadn't plugged them in. So I don't know. I think they might be a little bit too bright, but I'm test driving them. So yeah, enough with the new lights, right? Anyway, my disclaimer, first of all, everything I say is simply my opinion. It's simply for the sake of conversation, hoping to open up a discussion, hoping to learn something, and hoping to be educational. So my videos are all made specifically for the YouTube, and we all know that's an entertainment platform, right? So keep that in mind. And it looks like I am all alone. As soon as I say that, Susan comes on and says, hello, hey, thanks for coming. So really, I came on here today. I wasn't so sure I was going to come on because, there's so much going on in the world, is there not? There is in my world. So I thought maybe I'll just chill for a day, not do a live, but you know how much I love you guys. Hello from Texas. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about demeanor. Demeanor is the most important component to an interview or an interrogation or anything involving law enforcement. Also in trials, but specifically during an investigation, demeanor is more important than anything anybody says or does. So you know what I'm talking about. It's common sense. It's something that pretty much everybody in law enforcement knows. It's not talked about much because it's just so basic. And it's one of those real basic, obvious things that tends to get looked over. So I wanted to talk about demeanor in the case of the Idaho 4. And actually, I want to talk about the demeanor of the law enforcement because that's been my issue. My big issue has been with the Moscow PD not showing frustration or anger or really any emotion other than, oh, well, over Bethany and Dylan not calling 911 for 8 hours. That demeanor to me, or lack thereof, but really it's their demeanor, says everything that needs to be said. Like, in my opinion, they've completely given themselves away 100% by being so chill. Like, no, whatever the situation is, unless they were like physically restrained from calling 911, and for all we know, they were. For all we know, they were. We know so little for real about what actually went down that night. We know so little. We know that we have an ever evolving timeline. We know that every white Hyundai Elantra that was driving around Moscow and Pullman that night had BK in it. And I'm speaking about the criminal defendant, not the SWAT team fatality. But really, I mean, they act like every single white Hyundai Elantra that night had him in it. Like, there's so many of those cars. In fact, there's one parked in front of Jack D's house right across the street in half the pictures I've seen of that house, 1127 King Road, right? You can't overlook the fact that on August 16th, when the police go to Jack D's place for noise complaint at 5:30 at night on a Tuesday night, and then they walk from his house up Queen Road to Kaylee's house, they literally pass 5 sedans that look like they could be Hyundai Elantras. 3 of them are white, 2 of them are silver. They're like lined up on both sides of the street, right as they're coming up to the driveway. It's almost comical, you guys. And then the whole thing with the white pickup trucks, and there's a lot of white pickup trucks. There's a lot of Hyundai Elantras. And this whole thing that we keep going back to again and again about the year of the Hyundai Elantra being a 2011 to a 2013. Oh, wait, no. Our expert knew that it could have been a 2016. We just didn't bother telling the public, even though we were asking for their help. The whole thing is freaking bogus, you guys. They can't keep changing the goalposts, basically. They just keep moving stuff around. It's like the shell game, right? That old-fashioned shell game with your 3 coconut shells. And you know who does that? Con artists. Keep moving the goals. It's a glaring tell. Thanks, one maiden nut. Because sometimes when I say these things, I feel like I have to convince people. And yeah, it's a glaring tell. There's no having to convince anybody of anything. Demeanor has everything to do with everything. Everything. And especially in the eyes of law enforcement. But I'm turning this around with our eyes on law enforcement. And just how chill they've been with, like, oh yeah, we've cleared everybody. We've cleared everybody, including the guy that was trying to get into that woman's apartment in Pullman a month later. He's fine. At least that's what he says when we asked him. Tuning in on my lunch break, Annie Ruler. So let me say hi to everybody here. We got Susan, Jazz, King, Alice, One Maiden Nut, Jennifer, Annie, Crime and Crochet. Hey, Mod. And yes, please hit that like button. That one right there. Harsh did a great video about Dylan, Koberger, Kopaka, and CPSD. PTSD. Yeah, I saw that one. That was this morning. I'm like, CPSD? What is that? Some new patrol state department corporal something? I'm so proud of myself when I can figure out the typos as I go. So yeah, I totally watched that. It was really good. It was really good. And I could add on something to that. So Susan, Jennifer, Annie, and Tree Hugga. So appears bogus. Moscow, Idaho should change their name to Elantra, Idaho. That's a good one. That's pretty funny. I know. It was like, where's Waldo? And then Chief Fry, like, oh, we've got 22,000 that we've got to weed through, along with our 10,000 emails and our 10,000 voicemails. And oh, poor us. My goodness. Is it so attractive when dudes play the victim, especially dudes that are in charge, dudes that have a badge and a gun, and, they're like king of the hill, and they're like, oh, poor me, woe always me. Isn't that a huge turn on, everybody? I mean, seriously. These guys that play the victim, you know who does that? You really want to know who plays the victim? Narcissists. Getting back to that whole personality disorder thing, you guys. People with personality disorders and perps always try to turn the tables. They always try to play the victim. If you accuse them of being a perp, then they say, oh, poor me, you're accusing me of being a perp. I mean, it's just classic. Dang. So, like I said, I came on here simply to talk about Demeanor, but I will add something to Harsh's video, his critique of the PTSD. I thought that was really good too. Complex PTSD. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, it was so good. Again, it's, real basic, but so important to point out that complex PTSD is not just reserved for people who've fought in combat. Anybody can have complex PTSD from things as common as automobile accidents. So Annie Ruler says the red herring of 2011, 2013 Elantra was the same day they set up FBI hotline, knew they had CD on their radar, criminal defendant, but A&W gas lady went public with her video, so distraction was needed, in my opinion. Oh, very good, Annie. I like that. So yeah, to ride on the coattails of Harsh's video from this morning addressing complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and he shows a short video of a gentleman who's fought in, I think, 10 tours of duty for England, I think was the army that he fought for. But something that I wanted to tack on to that, and I was going to go into his comment section and say it, maybe I still will, is that it's not just what people see. It's what people hear. It's what people smell. It's what people hear about. Like, you don't even have to be present with the blood, the guts, and the gore to have that trauma. Sometimes people can call it secondary post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of first responders can get secondary post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not just reserved for professionals, though. Anybody can get that. And people that saw nothing, that had their eyes closed, or they were in a different room when something happened, of course, they can have PTSD just as much as the person who saw the visuals. And sometimes it's harder to identify the trauma and the recovery from the trauma when you don't have such graphic images or broken bones or, that type of hard evidence, basically, when it's, say, people just effing with your head, just the gaslighting, the real emotionally abusive, psycho games that people play, like that can really give a person shell shock, especially if they're living with that and it's constant. I mean, there's a lot of nuances to post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the reasons I'm always so hesitant to refer to myself as an expert in post-traumatic stress disorder is because I really don't believe in that. I believe that the more you know about anything, the more you know you'll never know. And especially PTSD, it's so mysterious. It does not matter how much therapy you've had. It does not matter how much you've resolved your issues. It does not matter how much time has elapsed since the incident or since the recovery. Shit can go sideways in the blink of an eye. So I'm not saying that to freak people out. I'm saying that to prepare people. So especially something that I learned later in my career is that any trauma triggers an old trauma. So something like your cat getting hit by a car can kick up all kinds of problems from maybe when you fought in a war. Seriously, it's amazing how people can get triggered, and people can get triggered by a smell or by a color or by a word or by a building, by the time of day, by the time of year. There are so many things that can trigger us. Sometimes we don't even know that we had a trauma. We've completely blocked it out. And then something helps to kind of bring it to light, like crystallizes it in your brain. Sometimes it's an anniversary. Sometimes it's just that you're finally ready to deal with it. And 20, 40 years have gone by and you never knew that you experienced, say, an assault, right? I mean, especially an essay, a molestation, those types of things. These things can lay dormant and they're full of surprises. And like I said, I was very weirded out when people started referring to me as a post-traumatic stress disorder expert. And the only reason I think I felt comfortable with accepting that was because I'd been through it too. So not just like from school, not just from talking to clients, but from my own life experience. So I know all of the surprises that can happen. I don't know all of the surprises because I only know my own. And it's different for everybody. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And I love that people want to refer to me as a post-traumatic stress disorder expert because there's very few actually. Because it's so mysterious, because it's not something you're going to make a whole lot of money with, basically. But to me, it's extremely important. So I wanted to tack all that on, and I've missed a whole bunch of your comments. So let me go back a little bit. Or not too many. Let's see. I think I already highlighted that one, but I'm going to highlight it again because it's so funny. The Moscow should change its name to Elantra, Idaho. That is hilarious. Misdemeanor. The more I miss demeanor, I get. Oh, that's cute, Ms. Annie Ruler. You hilarious. So let's see. Originally thought that Kopaka, yeah, Kopaka is very mysterious to a lot of people, you guys. A lot of people know a lot about him. A lot of people know nothing about him. Originally thought that Kopaka was a good suspect as the perp and Brian as the driver, but kind of changed my mind when Brian asked if anyone else was arrested. Kopaka was deceased at that point. What a great point you make, Juniper Rob. I have not heard anybody put all that together in a few sentences in a paragraph like that. That is such a fine point. So yeah, Koberger knew that Kopaka was deceased. He knew it on December 15th, almost in real time, probably. But he was arrested 2 weeks later, and that was his first question. And, that could be a question to throw people off. That could just be him being a smartass and trying to throw law enforcement a curveball. Or it could be a sincere question. Hard to know. Although I would think that a person as well educated as the criminal defendant would probably not say anything at all, knowing, of course, that everything you say can and will be held against you. You got to be really careful with what you say because you might be thinking that what you're saying isn't really revealing much, but pretty much everything we say reveals much. Am I right? I mean, seriously, not just our demeanor, but the words that we pick, the way we might stop ourselves. When you think of somebody like Sammy or Lindsay in the Kylie Rodney case, the words that are selected and the facial expressions, is it congruent with what's being said? Is somebody talking about something miserable and smiling and laughing? Or are they talking about something really upsetting, but, smiling and laughing? That's the same thing, isn't it? Brain no worky. So are they making all kinds of weird faces when they're talking about puppies? I mean, there we go. I was like, wait, I just used two examples that are the exact same. I'm going to have to delete that part right out. I'm just kidding. So if you've noticed, I've tried not deleting anything out of my lives because when you do that, you lose it. It becomes unalive. Is that cute or what? Once you edit your live, it becomes not alive. And then you also lose all of your comments, you lose all of your views, you lose all of your likes, and you lose the freaking chat. The worst part, it took me a while to realize that, you guys. If you edit your live, you lose the entire flippin' chat. So unless something really bad happens in a live, I'm going to try not to have to edit because losing your chat is the worst thing, I think. It's criminal. I don't know why they do that. They shouldn't do that. I understand taking it out of the live category and putting it in regular video category, but losing the chat is stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me that loses the chat when I edit a live video. But anyway, let's move on. So yeah, back to what you're saying, Juniper Rob. Very, very good comment. Thank you. I think that Kopaka, like Koberger, could be, as Harsh said in one of his videos yesterday, they would be prime candidates to weaponize by puppet masters. And you got to keep in mind this whole like King of Game of Thrones that I feel like people all over the country, probably all over the world, are looking at with that TV show and with that whole mindset. And then with this whole case with all the kings and the queens and the jacks. I don't think we have the ace of spades, but I know who my ace of spades is. And people are approaching these people and situations and life and death like it's a Game of Thrones TV show video game. I'm not the only one that thinks that, am I? I mean, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. Childhood abuse and neglect. Absolutely. Um, and so complex PTSD. Okay, I'm like, why are you putting that C in there again? CPTSD can stem from other traumatic life events, from childhood, etc. It can cause the same freeze response as someone who has been in active service. Scents, sounds, images can all cause flashbacks. Yeah. Juniper Rob. Wow. Yes. So whom else could have been accomplice? IT guy that was fired same day they announced Elantra, Kopaka, in my opinion, especially since criminal defendant drove out of way and maybe by a relative of, is that KOLP dot dot dot? Is that Kopaka? Um, and I thought that he also went by, I mean, of course, he went by a lot of people in a lot of places, and some of that was happenstance. But did he intentionally go through the town in Colorado, which is the town where the landlords live, the landlords that own 1122 and 1127 King Road, and some others that I think they own 1126 and 1118. And more too. But they own that whole little cluster. Speaking of clusters, this is a cluster, is it not? Let's see. Just arrived. I'm listening. Hey, Sema. And true crime justice for other victims, I feel, is therapeutic. 100%. Absolutely. I like to say this. I like to say that it's a nice, healthy distraction from my own issues. And simultaneously, I feel like I can work out my own issues through other people's issues. And sometimes it's much easier to help others or to look at others than it is to look at within or to receive help. But when you're helping other people, you are helping yourself. I mean, it's very self-serving. Being altruistic is very self-serving, in my opinion. And I feel very strongly about that. And that's a great thing, a great thing. So let's see. One maiden nut. It's not a fact that he asked if anyone else was arrested. That was put out by a leak, not law enforcement. So it is unverified and it's misinformation and we shouldn't run with it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I agree, one maiden nut. And I feel that way pretty much about everything in this case. Like, most of the information that we're getting is from law enforcement. And do we trust them? I mean, I was trashing them up yesterday in my video, and I'm not apologetic for that at all. I appreciate first responders so much, and dishonest first responders piss me off so much because they ruin it for everybody. And really, we're in a nationwide crisis of law enforcement trying to rebuild trust with the public and having a hard time filling positions and then keeping bad law enforcement because better than no law enforcement. And then that's being argued too. And some places are really doing the whole defunding the police thing. And I don't agree with that at all. I agree with eradicating the bad apples for sure And doing an overhaul and restructuring police accountability is huge, absolutely huge. That's the problem, is the lack of accountability. And when they're corrupt or dishonest or unethical, unprofessional, committing crimes when they're criminal, they need to be held accountable at least as much as Joe Public, if not more so. They actually are held to a higher standard than Joe Public. So, but yet what we see is that they're not held accountable for anything. And I also wanted to say about the one or two Moscow police officers that have been relieved of their duties during this case. I don't think we need to be suspicious of them. I think we might want to be suspicious of why they were let go, but it could be that they weren't on board with all the crazy shenanigans. And so, they said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I'm not questioning people that have lost their positions during this process. I'm questioning what the reasoning is behind that, for sure. Let's see. So yeah, thanks for that really good comment. It's not a fact. You are correct. One maiden nut. It was originally reported by News Nation. Even worse. So sad. So sad the way they've dragged themselves through the mud. In my opinion, that's just terrible. And terrible that one lead reporter can do that to all of the other great reporters that have impeccable track records and reputations. Some say the takedown of Kopacka may have been for show, and him in witness protection would make sense about fake autopsy results being medical death. I have heard that theory, Annie Ruler. Thank you for putting that in there. Let me try to get caught up. I know I fell a few minutes behind you here. It's always such a struggle. Let's see. Yes, I believe it was then put into the Howard Bloom article, if I recall. Jennifer S. Okay, right. And Howard Bloom seems to have a high level of credibility, but I just don't know. I don't know. Like you guys were saying, where are the leaks coming from? So, and yeah, could be the disinformation, although against law enforcement media narrative. So could be a good clue for us. In fairness to Kopacka, nobody has provided me with a job work history. So I've heard Brent has worked at WSU, University of Idaho security until somebody gives a legit work history. It's hearsay. People run with rumors. Thanks, Jennifer S. Very, very good comment. 100%. And Juniper Rob, you would think that there would be body cam with audio of Brian's arrest that documents exactly what Brian said or didn't say regarding others involved. And I'm sure that there is. There would have to be, right? Like you said, there would have to be. But we won't see it until the actual trial, most likely. If that ever happens, they are all over the place. You really have to dig for facts and sift through a lot of BS sometimes. So much is flying around. Right. And I think, just let it fly by. Just don't even worry about it. At first I was worried about all the stuff I was missing when I took the week to go to Florida for my aunt's passing away. And then from what I was catching, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I'm missing all this because it's just a lot of hype and a lot of bogus BS, in my opinion. 41 watching, but only 20 likes. Come on, hit that like button and help a girl out if you feel so inclined, if you feel so inspired. Hello, Rogue House. Jennifer S., I understand. Just toss out theories to eliminate. Yeah. So I wanted to go back to some of these examples of people's demeanors and how revealing they are. Looking in the Kylie Rodney case and Sammy. Remember her smiling and fixing her hair when she's in her Tony Dodge interview? And that was weird, right? Remember Kylie's mom when she was talking like this and saying all these things and doing the weird enunciation with the last part of each sentence and word? Those are the types of things I'm talking about, like some of the red flags that we've seen. Amanda Knox in the Meredith Kircher slaughter is another good example. That girl was doing, was it headstands and cartwheels in the hallways and in the interview room? Sure, you could say that, you're in there for a long time and you need to stretch or something, but no, that's unusual. That's highly, highly unusual. I think Jodi Arias did some stuff like that too. And the Jacks, the demeanor of the Jacks, the demeanor of Dylan and Bethany, we don't really know their demeanor. We haven't really seen much of them. They've been hidden. But what about their ages? What about their ages? Has anybody been able to verify 19, 20, 21, 22 even? I've heard all of those ages for Dylan and Bethany. So again, at the beginning of the case, we had the lead detective, 26 years old, right? Corporal Brett Payne. He's not 26, but that's what was being put out there in multiple sources. Dylan and Bethany were both 19. And then Xana and Ethan were, of course, 20, and Kaylee and Madison were 21. So the ages of the four victims has never changed that I've seen. They've been 21 and 20 at the time of the tragedy. But Dylan and Bethany, it's quite feasible that one or both of them is actually not 19, but 20, 21. I've even heard 22 and 23, but there was a whole lot of that going on with Sammy too. Remember all of that ruckus? And is it just ruckus, or are these young adults actually adults and we're being told that they're almost minors so that we treat them with the kid gloves and don't question their story and their demeanor and their inability to dial the phone? And again, you got to put that into the context for Dylan, that she called the roommates because she said she was concerned. So she was concerned enough to call the people that were in the same house. And I've never heard if there's a report of whether Bethany was part of the calling the roommates. And if she called the deceased roommates and didn't call Bethany, that would tell me that she knew that those ones were in trouble and that Bethany wasn't. So, we can get back to that question, was Bethany even home? I mean, we really know so very little about the situation, for real. So let me get your comments here. I understand. Wasn't jumping on you. I hope you didn't take it that way, Annie. Definitely. We don't jump on each other in our chat here, right? We play nice. We are very respectful, and yeah. If you guys were here yesterday, you saw that my mod was like Johnny on the spot with somebody who was making some, I think we spoke later, and she said it was comments that were like derogatory towards the trans individual that's been hired to represent Bud Light, I think, Budweiser. But I was astounded that anybody would come into my chat and say anything derogatory about trans people. I am very vocal about being in full support of everybody being who they are and embracing themselves, and be yourself. My mom used to say, be yourself, everybody else is already taken. And I thought that was really cute. But, being yourself is all you have. And you are only on this planet in this form for a finite number of days, hours, minutes. Just be you. Like, that's what you're here for, isn't it? Not to be so philosophical, but please, no hate. I mean, different strokes for different folks. And I know it's hard to understand the whole trans thing. It makes it a lot easier if you know somebody personally, in my opinion. Or maybe if you're like a David Bowie fan or a Tim Curry fan, these guys were way ahead of their time and incredible artists, incredibly talented. And that was when it was really, really shunned. And it's gotten a lot less shunned, but still, I mean, hate crimes are awful and they happen all the time. And like I was mentioning, I think the day before yesterday, for a trans person, just to do something as innocuous as pump gas at their car, they might get a rock thrown at them. They're certainly going to get daggers with the eyes thrown at them. And that's part of their lives every freaking day, every freaking minute. So just have some compassion. If you don't understand it, that's okay. I mean, I don't feel like I really understood it until I knew people well going through that type of thing. And as a professional, talking with clients going through that type of thing was very different than having a friend who I thought was like a hot dude for many, many years. And then she came out to me that she was undergoing transgender. And I was like, wow, you know, she's a good friend. I love her. And I screw up all the time when I'm talking about her back before her transition. And I refer to her as him. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And you know what she says? She says, that's okay. It's confusing. At least you're trying and you're acknowledging when you make a mistake. That's all you can do. So I'd say if you don't know somebody, just try to chill out about it. And if you do know somebody, if you have somebody in your family, hopefully you love and support them unconditionally. Some people will disown family members over crap like that, you guys. I mean, that's just tragic. Anyway, I don't like to get into such heated topics, but I was really dismayed that somebody would come into my chat. I'm just like, have you been watching my show? Like, you don't come into my chat and say anything like that. But I did really want to hit on that issue of transgender. Why, in this case, have we heard so much rumor about Dylan being trans and now Koberger being trans? Like, why is that such a thing? With Dylan, I could see maybe just because she's so tall and she had the lip injections. And with Koberger, I don't know. Is it because whoever's leaking information is just trying to get the public to despise everything about him and to want him shot by a firing squad, whether he's found guilty or not guilty? Because that's kind of how people are acting. And there's a lot of hatred towards trans people, you guys. It's really sad. I mean, who in my chat is not a huge Tim Curry fan or a huge David Bowie fan or Queen, for crying out loud? Elton John. I mean, there's so many amazing people that have contributed so much to humanity that are trans or, maybe not transgender, but doing just the dressing part. So transsexual, transgender, there's so many ways of being. There's so many ways of being a guy. There's so many ways of being a female. And there's everything in between. Real quick, one last thing on my soapbox. Again, masculinity and femininity, if you look at them as opposite ends of the spectrum, which I don't really, but let's just do this for a minute, that every human in the planet is going to fall at a different place on that spectrum. So some people are going to fall right in the middle. 1 in 3,000 people is born a freaking hermaphrodite, you guys. Like, it's just part of life. 1 in 3,000. So you take a school the size of the University of Idaho, and there would be 3 students there that were born hermaphrodite. Some of them might not even know, because people freak out and they do operations. Sometimes doctors don't even consult with parents. I mean, it's just a whole lot of wild stuff. And my point is just to let go of hatred. And usually any kind of phobia is because we're afraid of that within ourselves. And I think that all have masculine traits, we all have feminine traits, and that, you know, it's not really that important to distinguish, in my opinion. So anyway, have I lost everybody? You guys just like, okay, let's get back on topic. So yeah, I was really just taken aback that somebody would come into my chat and talk like that. And I was so glad that my mod was just on it, deleting the comments. And the person who did that is welcome to come into chat, but not like that. No one's welcome to be like that. So not in my chat. Where are we at? Not at all. Just for when others watch reruns, jazz group is always nice. We try. We do try. Spread the love, right? I mean, hate is just so awful. And, people don't realize that they're just showing what a jerk they are when they're doing that type of thing, in my opinion. The Gonsalves attorney accused the prosecutor's office of leaking info in a court transcript. I wonder if Kaylee's family has questions about law enforcement in the case as well. I would think so. I mean, they're behaving very well. They're abiding by the gag order. But they were very vocal. Steve especially was very vocal, questioning the method of law enforcement. Bethany posted around 3:30 from wherever. So did Dee, setting a timeline. Right. And just that timeline moving from 3 to 4 to 4 to 4:25 is so significant to me, especially when you bring up the fact that the last use of the telephones of Madison and Kaylee was before 3:00. And I said this, I think, yesterday. It doesn't have to be that it was them using their phones blowing up Jack's phone. That could have been one of the unalivers, or if there's more than one, or if there's one, that could have been somebody staging it to say, look, they were still not unalived at that time. So just because a bunch of phone calls and texts came from their phones, that doesn't mean that it came from them. So keep that in mind too. Miss Amir Zaza, 33 minutes late. You were right on time. And where we're already at 45 minutes almost. So I was going to keep this one short because, like I said, all I really wanted to do was discuss demeanor and just really focus on thinking about the demeanor of the players in this case. And half of those players are law enforcement. I think we have a really big problem in Moscow, unfortunately. But, identifying the problem, talking about the problem, you're halfway to solving the problem. It's when you can't talk about it and you can't identify it that it'll never get solved. Let's see. Bubbly Waters, hello, good morning. And love me some Tim Curry. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show. And that really put him on the map. I mean, he's been at the top of his game ever since. Lately, not so much, but he's probably winding down his career. My niece, now nephew, is transgender. Exactly. And if you have a child who's transgender and you're still transphobic, please don't do that to yourself and your kid. Like, I know that those things can be very challenging, but do it. Get over it. Please. Please, please, please. I mean, I had a client come to me once because he was gay and he wanted me to fix him and make him not gay. I literally had a client come into my office with that as his stated goal in therapy. And of course I said to him, not going to happen. I'm not that kind of therapist. And he did come to terms with being the way he was, but he really challenged me to say, look, I want to be straight. You're not going to help me get straight. And I was just like, I don't think that that's what's going on here. If that is what's going on here, then sure, but let's talk about it. So we did work together for a while, and I, I don't want to say I won him over, but I think that I helped him see that he had his own internalized homophobia, you guys. We all do. So people that are transgender have their own internalized transgender phobia too to deal with on top of everybody else's. Think about that. All right. I'm cool with trans, have issues about children being stunted sexually, adults with junk intact. All good to me. Taking away happy endings in reproduction before age 18 disturbs me. Yeah, I know. The world's gone freaking crazy, Annie Ruler. It's just nuts. And yeah, I mean, I have children, and it's a very hotly debated issue of when is too young to talk about these things. But, kids are all very intuitive. Think about when you were a kid. And if it was more of an open culture back then, I'm sure as a child you would have been open to that. Children are very open. And that doesn't mean that you're going to turn them gay or trans, in my opinion. You do know who it was that was doing that in your chat, correct? I do. And it really flipped me out. Thanks, Bubbly Waters. Let's see. MSM knows society naturally picks on those who are different, and that's why it's been working overtime to make BCK seem as unlikable as possible. One maiden nut, thanks for that comment. I want to read it again. A to Z, you're right. MSM knows society naturally picks on those different, and that's why it's been working overtime to make BCK seem as unlikable as possible. And then more so and more so and more so. And yeah, I think that that's where the whole trans conversation is coming from, in my opinion, possibly. Hate has no place anywhere. I love that. There's an old Grateful Dead line from one of their songs. It's one of my favorite bumper stickers. No time for hate. And then takes you back another 10 years. What was that woman? Ain't nobody got time for that. That was great. That was like one of the first TikToks or something that went viral. Ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, Bubbly Waters, sorry, had to take a call from a vet. Who was in chat? What did I miss? The profile is Messenger 11, so that was who it was yesterday. And luckily you were here. And yeah, maybe that's what you're referring to about taking a call yesterday, but luckily Kale was on it so fast, like lightning speed. Why would Dylan have called the roommates? She could have just knocked on Xana's door. It is not known whether the sliding door was found opened. Don't think perp would have closed front door. Juniper Rob is full of the awesome comments. Absolutely. Why would Dylan have called the roommate? She could have just knocked on Xana's door. She could have like taken a broom and like hit the ceiling to see if Maddie and Kaylee were awake. Such a good point. It is not known whether the sliding door was found open. Don't think the perp would have closed front door? Question mark. Hey, Katie Bug. Juniper Rob, you're right. Calling and texting the roommates is so suspicious. It's very odd, especially, see, so many of these things are not congruent, that she says I thought everything was fine. I thought bushy eyebrow guy was just like a party goer, just somebody was nobody. But then, the frozen shock phase, and oh, I was scared, so I locked my door, and I was concerned, so I called people. None of it adds up. Dylan's story does not add up, period. Period, period, period. It never did. Same with Bethany. Not trusting either of their stories. And, at the beginning, I was like such an advocate of, yes, these two are victims as well. Everybody be really nice to these little girls that don't know how to call 911. And, as time passes, they should be able to elaborate their stories to convince everybody of what was really happening. But the opposite has happened. Like they just keep saying a whole bunch of contradictory crap. So, it's been 5 months, hasn't it? November to December to January to February to March to April. We just passed 5 months, you guys. So, yeah. And what do we know? Pretty much just zilch, in my opinion. I've been seeing some new old to the internet photos and videos of the beautiful four, and unfortunately, Xana was showing an extreme pattern of heavy drinking. I agree. And an array of drug use. It's sad. I don't necessarily see that as so sad to be a party animal. I see that as sad for her because she's no longer of this earth and because her mother has such extreme substance problems that, yeah, there's a correlation when a family member has substance problems and legal problems the way her mother does. And then for her to be such a party animal, it's definitely concerning. And then, if she was 20, so maybe she was going to leave that in her college days and not carry it with her into adulthood. But like for myself, that's when I went and got professional help. I was 22 because I was afraid that I was not going to be able to leave it behind in my college days. And thankfully I have been able to. But this isn't about me. This is about the Idaho 4. Did anyone hear really early on that one of the two surviving roommates has trauma from before this event? I remember hearing this, but of course, no personal details. Yeah, there was a lot of that kicked around about Dylan, that she had been assaulted, but I've not any confirmation that that's anything other than rumor. But so many people have been assaulted. I was going to say so many women have been assaulted, but so many people. I think the statistic is like as many as half, maybe by the time they're 18, have been assaulted, male and female. That females are more often assaulted than males are, but both males are assaulted a lot more than anybody wants to know about or can admit. Look at how red my side of my face is. Some of it's the lighting, but I was outside in the sun yesterday too. Anyway, not to be distracted. So yeah, the surviving roommates. Crime and Crochet. Oh, cool. You dropped your link. I'm so glad. So let me get caught up. Where are we? I got lost. Here we are. Yeah. Dana Nelson. And I think that I did not highlight that, but I'll just read it again real quick and move on. Did anyone hear really early on that one of the two surviving roommates has trauma from before this event? I remember hearing this, but of course, no personal details. So yeah. Hey, Sifa, what's going on? Nice to see you. Good morning. Crime and Crochet. I don't want to mention names in Jazzy's calm chat. Sorry. And I went ahead and said the Messenger 11. It's the one that I think it was like 3 comments. I didn't see what any of them said, but I trust my mod that, we just didn't want those comments here, and it's nothing personal. So, that person's welcome to come back in if they want. Just not welcome with the bashing trans or anything like that. Please, no. I hit that like button, by the way. Thanks. Grateful Dead song, Uncle John's Band, Television Eyes. Hey, you don't usually make comments, Television Eyes. Good, nailing it. Yeah, that's a not a song that every Deadhead knows, or every Deadhead knows Uncle John's Band, but not a song that other people that aren't Deadheads know. It's one of the best ones. Early on, PTSD was narrative about Dylan, later disclaimed, but claimed by Justin, claiming to be Dee's friend. We never were told by her or law enforcement. I know that whole Justin thing. We just won't even get into that. That was wackadoodle. Can you email me bubbly waters? Crime and crochet is my hyper focus. Yes, and I can email you to crime and crochet. I think I know what that's about. Jazz gave you the answer. Annie Ruler, thanks. Yes, I couldn't remember details. Crochet love. And there is Crime and Crochet's channel. And good morning, Justice and everyone. Am not sure, but I did hear something about a human trait of destroying things that they don't understand. Just got here. That's a very interesting remark. A human trait of destroying things that they don't understand. Well, and destroying things that they're threatened by. I mean, I honestly believe that most people that are homophobic, it's within themselves. They're afraid of their own tendencies towards that. And so they project their hate onto other people. It has nothing to do with the other people. It has everything to do with them. So yeah, it's very destructive and hurtful. And like I said, pretty much every homosexual individual has their own internalized homophobia to deal with. They don't need your homophobia to deal with too. Thanks anyway. Thank you. No, thank you. Bubbly Waters, I have a list of known trolls. LOL. Yeah. I agree with the family correlation, but the drugs I was seeing aren't the kinds of drugs you just do and walk away from, unfortunately. So you saw Xana with some drugs in some of the videos? Because I've not seen that. I mean, I've seen a lot of the drinking. If you want to mention what substances you've seen in videos in the chat, you're more than welcome to. That's fascinating. But yeah, I think a lot of college kids are going to smoke marijuana. A lot of people don't even consider that a problem or a drug. I do, because that was a problem for me. But cocaine is very popular. Ecstasy, which is what they call mollies these days, that's very popular. Mushrooms and LSD, still very popular with college kids. I've got kids in that age range, and fortunately, I'm honest with them about my own experimenting and trouble with substances. So hopefully, they won't have to walk through those hot coals themselves. Most kids have to learn it for themselves, but it's some really scary stuff. Can be really scary, especially with the fentanyl these days. Alistair Grant, I changed it so you can pronounce my name. It's Scottish for Alexander Justice. Crime and Crochet, understand the list thing. LOL. What time did Dylan call the roommates? I thought that it was in the morning. That's why I said, why not knock? Yeah, I've always thought that it was like when she heard the noises and she heard the crying, the whimpering, the thud, that's when she called them. Like, so around 3-ish, depending on which version you're going to buy, the 3 o'clock version or the 4 o'clock version. Yeah. Kaylee told Dad trafficking is real. Human or drugs were not mentioned, but she knew something. Right. And I would think she was talking about human, because with substances, like, that's common knowledge. Like, drug trafficking is common knowledge. Human trafficking, not so much. So I would think that that's what she was referring to. Thank you, Justice. I hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you. Crime, that's your YouTube channel. Is there an email you want me to send to? Well, and she probably has her YouTube channel on her community page, or no, in the about section. Usually the email address is there. Although mine might not be. I tried to put it there, but I don't know if it worked. Juniper Rob, no specific time, but source is November 29th. Good Morning America interview with Kana Whitworth. Bubbly Waters, my email is on my channel description, but it is crime and crochet or myhyperfocus@gmail.com. Highlight that. Let's see. Where'd it go? Oh, was there a second ago? There it is. Is that it? Oh, it jumped. There we go. Sorry, you guys. All right. Other content creators know how hard that is when you're going back and forth and the dumb thing is jumping around. I just have to say, hearts, rainbows. Yes, absolutely, Jennifer S. Absolutely. One maiden nut, totally agree. Not verified. Reporter said it. Sifa, yes, fear and the lack of understanding can make people act in negative ways. Oh, and it's just horrifying. It's horrifying. I mean, people just need to take care of themselves, focus on themselves, let other people do their thing, to each their own. Come on. Like, it's okay to be different. It's more than okay. I had the craziest dream last night about my grandma. She was born and raised in Idaho in Kootenai County, and this dream sat me straight up in bed. I'll email you an outline of my dream. Oh, cool, Bubbly Waters. I thought you were going to spill it right here, which you're welcome to, but I am going to get wrapping up soon too. We're just over an hour. So if you want to spill it, you're welcome to here, but if you want to email me, and then we can discuss. That's fascinating. Really fascinating to me. Like I said yesterday, I love dreams. I think there's so much power in dreams. And I did not put the links yet, but I'll do it now. I'll put the links to the Kylie's My New Friend song that Kevin Neese wrote for her about his dream that he had about her, and also the song that T-Rev wrote, The Truckee Way. I love both of those songs. I was talking about them yesterday, and I was going to put the links in the description. I don't think I've done it yet, so I'll do that right now as soon as we wrap up. And if you haven't heard those songs, I highly recommend them. They're both so freaking cool. They're really cool. The Kevin Neese really sounds to me like Neil Young. He's incredibly talented, and T-Rev is just amazing with his rapping, just amazing. So check them out. And I would love to hear about your dream, Bubbly Waters. Absolutely. I apologize. It was unclear. SG says it during that interview. So Steve Gonzalez. Xena was never into drugs. Xana. I was like, yeah, I was. I won't deny it. Too funny. Sorry. No, this isn't about me. This is about the Idaho 4. Xana was never into drugs and never seen a video exists. She was not close with her mother, and she was a very, very natural girl. And she did party a lot. I mean, I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm just saying that as an observation. Like I say again and again, I was a complete party animal. I can really identify with all those folks in that house. And yeah, it's easy for people to cross their wires, but I believe Bubbly Waters. I don't think she would say that if she didn't have good reason to. So we'll see. But thanks for saying that, Sema Turner. I like that you said that. Xana was never into drugs, and never a scene of a video exists. She was not close with her mother, and she was a very natural girl, and very athletic, very, very talented athlete. I think as parents, it's very important for us to be transparent with our children when it comes to our experiences with substances, etc. I agree. Not every parent is like that, but I am. I think it's extremely important. I think anything can really quickly become a family secret if you're not open with your kids about it. And family secrets are extremely destructive, in my opinion. Um, and I did not highlight that one, but I'm going to because it's a great comment. Crime Stories Obsessed has been dropping new Idaho videos and photos. I'd really like you to watch it. Looks to me like she's smoking crack a couple of different times. Crime Stories Obsessed does make some really cool videos with new stuff that she's finding of the kids. It's mostly just tributes to. So yeah, I'm a little shocked, but it's good to have the truth out there. I think again, it's not a criticism. So many people do that and are secretive about it. Um, So Sifa has a channel too. Thanks for dropping it, Crime and Crochet, or my hyper focus. Great live last night talking about mass hysteria and a few other psychological phenomena. Excellent. Yeah, I saw that was going on, but I didn't get a chance to drop in. Thank you for that information. And Sifa says, thank you for being on panel with me. Remember how they treated Damien Eccles in the West Memphis 3 case? He wears black, must be a killer. Brian has intense eyes, must be a killer. Stalker, let's judge him. So frustrating. I agree 100%, Jennifer. 100%. You can see the drastic changes in Xana's looks as well. Wow. Whew. It's clear I'm late, but I think Steve Gonzalez didn't know either. I doubt he said it. Oh, about the trafficking, if it was humans or substances that Kaylee was referring to when she had said that to him about trafficking being real. Maybe Kay was talking about Emma's new career. Emma was trafficking substances. She's the one that was arrested in the other University of Idaho students' overdose when it happened on spring break in Washington State. But it looks like from some of the things that I saw online that she was doing both kinds of trafficking, maybe. And her dude that she's hanging out with is like in his 30s and just seemed very questionable. Very, very questionable. Bubbly Waters, and maybe she just likes older dudes, but there were a lot of red flags for sure. Maybe, let's see, got it. Thanks. The link that is, gonna be in a few comments. LOL. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Please, Bubbly Waters. That'd be great to hear about the dream about your grandmother. That'd be awesome. Wouldn't you like that, folks? Wouldn't you like to hear Bubbly Waters' dream? If she has already gotten there. Let's see, I'm 5 minutes behind, so let me catch up and see if you're doing that right now as I speak. Jennifer S. Exactly. My son is on the spectrum, and how BK's alleged quirks back and forth were turned into evidence of guilt made me sad. Right. I mean, he socially awkward does not make anybody anything other than socially awkward. And being on the spectrum doesn't make anybody anything other than being on the spectrum. Both songs are really good, Sifa says. Yes, I love those songs. So I'm going to put those links in the description from yesterday's video if I haven't already. I think I might have, but I actually don't think I completed that task. Isn't that terrible that I honestly don't remember? I'm pretty sure I didn't. I'm pretty sure I kept thinking about it. Sima Turn, I understand your point of view. Xana, no drugs, but please body cam and some TikTok vids. People say she appears to be on Molly's. I don't know. And it sounds like Molly's were the big thing in their household. Like that was the big thing with their parties. And I know a lot of colleges are like that. Like that's the drug of choice on campus. Because people get very sexual with ecstasy. Just touch, it's your senses get extra sensual, and kids these days, like that kind of thing. I mean, teenagers are pretty sexual beings, so they don't need it. They don't need to add fuel to that fire. Annie Ruler, let's see, I misspelled her name. I've always been honest with my kids about my past party issues. It opens up more dialogue so they know they can talk to you. Yeah, I mean, I don't like it when my kids do things like drink, but I'm glad that they tell me when they do. Um, so grandma was born and raised in Idaho, and was a very outdoorsy person. She rode horses and hunted, shoot the works. Grandpa was always upset because grandma always got the deer and he never did. Um, and Annie, let's see, I'm just going to skip ahead. My heart goes to you. Jennifer Taylor Bryan, by chance, is on a spectrum of autism. Oh, is the Jennifer Taylor Bryan, is that the person that is representing Budweiser that has been in the news? I'm not sure. They are using it against him and weaponizing it. Therefore, their misunderstanding of those characteristics is sad. 100%. 100%. Because yeah, if he's having that issue, that's going to make him more vulnerable in a men's prison also. Bubbly Waters, back to the dream. Grandpa got mad and he'd make her drag it home. Anyway, grandma always wore jeans with 2 front pockets, and in those pockets she carried cash, photo ID, 1 credit card, tube of that hard chapstick, pocket knife. Sounds like me, sort of. Chapstick, pocket knife, ID, money. Let's see. Does dream analysis too. Oh, Sifa does dream analysis too. So he may be able to help you understand your dream, Bubbly Waters. Is it possible they want him to walk and this is all an act? I think it's 100% possible that they want him to walk and that they're just playing all kinds of crazy games. Yeah. Another possibility is if he's innocent and it's a setup and he gets convicted, then justice will only be an illusion. That's the concern. That is my big concern. I'm hoping he'll be able to help me understand my weird ass dream from last night too. LOL. Yeah, let's do a dream analysis for the rest of the video, the rest of the live. I don't mind, seriously, actually. I think Brian might have Asperger. I think that's how you say it. Asperger. Asperger. It's hard to say it right. In the dream, she was expressing to me in a telepathic way that she carried these things because people went missing a lot. She especially stressed the pocket knife. Wow. Cool dream. Yes, I do crochet, Bubbly Waters. I'm happy to help if you would like. Clarifying that if Brian is on the spectrum of autism, we don't know, but it's quite possible for sure. Well, especially idiot savants, if you're familiar with that term, like people who are very brilliant in one department, but then extremely lacking in other capacities with their personalities. Asperger is the name which the autistic community is trying to move away from. Oh, is it? That's good to know. I have not heard that at all. And I try to stay up to speed with that stuff. I've not heard that. Then in my dream, Bubbly Waters says, continuing on, it popped me to a birthday party where grandma gave all us kids cardboard boxes we could fit in. We thought there were gifts in them, but they were empty. Oh, this is fascinating. You really got me on the edge of my seat now. Is that as far as it goes at the moment? Give us more, give us more. So look at me, I'm all up to speed. That's so exciting. I'm going to take a quick drink. And yeah, is that the whole thing or is there more? Cardboard boxes that you could fit in. So is this like let's see. She said in case we needed to hide. Oh, see, I was going to make a joke about living in them. So what this dream made me think is that grandma knew all those years that kids disappeared in Idaho. Interesting, bubbly waters. Hey, Messenger. We have a lot of mental health issues in YouTube community. Yes, Koberger probably have Asperger's. I have Asperger's. So what? There's a person here right now who's a schizophrenic. Right. We don't judge people for having any types of issues like that for sure. What's in box, Mr. Centennial says. There's nothing in the box. The box is for kids to hide in so that they can stay safe in Idaho, right? So you guys, we are at an hour and 15 minutes. I think that's the rest of your dream, bubbly waters. If there's more, say it now or forever hold your peace, because I am going to wrap up. And I appreciate you guys so much. Delta Jackson says, hey, from Oklahoma. Thanks for joining me. If you want to hit that like button, it's right there. Share, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Let's see. Bubbly Water says, it was so surreal. It made me feel very strange. All done. LOL. Cool. I didn't want to cut you off if you weren't. I just figured that you were, since you had not made another comment about it. Autism is a challenge for sure. Does anybody know if law enforcement are educated on autistic behavior so they are not misinterpreted? I would think so. As far as I know, that law enforcement have special training for that sort of thing. I am diagnosed autistic and also ADHD, so I am living proof that not everyone with mental health issues go on to do evil things. Absolutely. What they're saying is he is not a murderer just because he may have autism. The problem is a lot of society doesn't understand it or how characteristics represent themselves, and their lack of knowing makes people jump to judgment. I love being on the higher spectrum. It feels like I'm an alien to the rest, and I'm okay with that. That's awesome. Hopefully, Family Koberger knows his possible autism in his defense. Thank you, Annie. That's what we're saying. Bubbly Waters, your grandmother's soul is hugging you. Don't worry and be relaxed. So, yeah, I love that dream. And thanks so much for the conversation, you guys. I'm going to say peace out. Have a really good rest of your afternoon. It's Thursday, so take the rest of the week off. I always like to say that if I can. Let's see. Today, I hope you guys can get the exercise that your body requires, and I hope you're getting enough rest. Sometimes if we're having to wake up too early during the week, we can get really worn down by Friday. And, you know, a lot of people like to go out and party on Friday night. A lot of people like to fall asleep right after work on Friday night. So sleep's so important. So make sure you're getting your rest, staying hydrated, getting really good nutrition. And that requires a ton of vegetables. Doesn't require vegetarianism at all. It requires a ton of vegetables no matter who you are. So get those veggies one way or another, whether it's V8 juice or salads or stir fries, carrots and celery. Eat your veggies. You have to, and you will feel amazing if you do. Trust me. It's one thing I can promise you. In the UK, you can probably you can apply for a card to show the police if you ever got arrested, which alerts that you are autistic. Autistic traits can sometimes seem like indicative of other things like deception. That's way cool, Crime and Crochet. I had no idea. That's awesome. Make sure you stretch your body and do your self-care. Exactly. Is it Friday? Tomorrow. It's Friday Eve. It's almost Friday Eve. Hit that like button on the way out. Hugs and love to all. Sending you light, sending you love. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope that today's video was helpful. Remember, demeanor. It's all about demeanor. And what do you see with the demeanor of these people in this Idaho 4 case? What do you see with Fry's demeanor? Gloating is not a good thing. Being pompous is not a good thing. Being an egomaniac is not a good thing. But Yeah, I'm very concerned about the demeanor of the lead detective and the police chief and some of the others as well. So I'm just putting it out there. Just to clarify, I'm not stating Brian is on spectrum. I don't know, but it would possibly explain some of his characteristics, and lack of knowledge of those things can cause people to jump to things. Thank you for the clarification, Jennifer. That's great. That's a nice way to wrap it up. So peace out, you guys. Sending you light, sending you love. See you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.